Hey guys, welcome to another episode of the Planeswalkers Pub, who's just a small-town girl living in a lonely world, took a midnight train going anywhere. I'm your host, Aaron.
I'm Eric. I was born and raised in South Detroit. Took a midnight train going anywhere.
Howdy, it's RJ. I'm uncomfortable. Today, we're going to be talking about the different ways to play Commander. But first, let's talk about our signature card.
Yes, every episode of the Planeswalkers Pub will feature a signature card that may or may not relate to the episode's topic.
Today's signature card is Rescue from the Underworld. Rescue from the Underworld costs 4 and a black. It's an instant from Theros that states, as an additional cost to cast Rescue from the Underworld, sacrifice a creature. Choose target creature card in your graveyard. Return that card and the sacrifice card to the battlefield under your control at the beginning of your next upkeep. Exile Rescue from the Underworld.
So this card's dope.
Just, you missed Eric cueing Aaron to say it.
With this, you're able to basically reanimate, kind of, sort of, whatever you want, at the cost of sacrificing a creature, which doesn't actually matter as much.
And 5 mana.
And 5 mana, but the cool thing is, this is an instant. So, like, end of someone's turn. Hey, that creature you just killed. Or, like, let's say there's a board wipe. Or maybe, like, a,
If there's a board wipe, how did you sacrifice a creature to return a
I was
creature from
thinking
your
about, like,
graveyard
Divine
to-
Reckoning or something, where it's, like, select one creature, sack all the others. Then you can just be like, cool. After that, end of the turn, return from the underworld. Basically, sack the creature that survived, go grab something else.
Well, not until your next upkeep. But this kind of breaks my rule of the more than 3 mana counterspells in that you have to hold up 5 mana in the hopes to pull this kind of effect off. And that, in my opinion at least, cuts down its usefulness.
I was thinking more of, like, if you have this in hand, you don't use your mana that turn. You just leave everything up and you wait to do that. Everybody's going to be waiting on something if they see that. I don't know.
Well, here's the thing. It's not like this is in blue, where it's like, oh, he's holding up a counterspell. Or like in white, where it's like he might be holding up a pump spell, or like, green, where it's holding up something with flash. This is in black. With this, the biggest bang for your buck is actually casting it when you have a decently sized graveyard anyway, which doesn't happen until like maybe turn 6, turn 7, unless you're running Dredge or something crazy. At that point, you can just hold up in the mana. It's like, okay, well, I didn't cast anything. Who cares? I cast like this 1/1 or something, or just have a creature floating around. Pass the turn, end of the turn or whatever. Cast this, sacrifice that little 1/1. I get the 1/1 back, as well as like the giant Eldritch I threw in there at turn 0, or something crazy. I don't know. It's another reanimator in black. But the cool thing is it's instant, which means they have less chances to interact with it.
Also, it's very flavorful, like an Orpheus and Eurydice type thing. You're sending one
To
thing
bless
down
you?
there to get it back.
It's not really instant, though, because you don't get it back until the beginning of your next upkeep. So, until that comes around, you're still down whatever creature you sacrifice to fuel the effect, and you won't get the benefits of anything you were attempting to reanimate.
So that's because you're not thinking fourth dimensionally. So, my turn, I hold in the 5 mana. Goes to Eric's turn, do nothing. Goes to RJ's turn, do nothing. Goes to C's turn, do nothing. Or no, goes to C's turn, still do nothing. And then when she's like, okay, I go to my end step. At your end step, I cast this, sacrifice a creature. It then goes to my turn. It's not my upkeep. I get them both back.
Yeah, but how many turns did you waste to do that? You pretty much passed your initial turn in order to hold on to the 5 mana you needed to use this. And then you sat through an entire table rotation in order to pull this off. That's not that great.
Well, then how about this then? You've got Cabal Coffers on the field. Technically, now you're only hoping to open 2 mana.
Okay, that's a bit more reasonable.
Yeah, 2 mana, regenerate something huge. And then, like I said, you're in black, so there's a good chance you're going to have Cabal Coffers anyway.
I like to
Yeah,
think of
but
this.
Cabal Coffers is one of the most, I don't want to say broken, but it's on the level there
Yes.
of extremely powerful cards. Makes this card from mediocre to just okay.
I don't know. I like it just because it's a reanimator thing. You can also get double ETB effects, like the creature you kill. Let's say that you're in, like, blue-black or whatever. You sack a Mole Drifter to this. You now get the Mole Drifter back, draw 2 cards, and then the giant creature.
That's fair. RJ, you were saying something?
Just same thing that Aaron said. Abuse ETBs. Anything that has a edict effect, I think, is what you call
like
it.
A double Plaguecrafter type deal?
Yeah.
Oh, that'd be amazing. You sacrifice your Plaguecrafter to get back, like, Fleshback Marauder. Brings back the Plaguecrafter and the Fleshback Marauder. Jokes aside, this card's dope. We like it. Moving on to our main topic. I was about to say our main phase. Moving on to our main phase, we're talking about the different variants in Commander. Examples being like the Star variants, the two-headed giants type deal, Emperor. These are just kind of homebrews that got popularity and people are starting to play them outside of the home, and now your LGS or something like that. It's just a way of playing Commander differently for maybe that one game or something.
First of all, why would you want to play one of these? Why would you want to do this rather than just play a regular game of Commander? Well, in the case of something like Star, you have an odd number of people, and weird 5-man games aren't exactly the best. So you're like, okay, let's use this variant, so it makes it easier to incorporate a 5th person. Or you're just bored. Like, oh, I just played my 5th regular game of Commander today. Let's do something different. Spice it up.
Or maybe you're got some Battle Bond cards in your deck, and you want to use the, I think it's called assist mechanic.
Yeah, where someone else can
So
actually pay for
you
it.
start a game of two-headed giant. Although kind of interesting how you mentioned these formats as a homebrew, because that's what EDH originally was.
EDH wasn't technically a home brew, more or less just like a judge brew type bull.
Bunch of judges got really bored and were like, what if we use the Elder Dragons?
Let's jump over to the one thing I feel like a lot of people are going to mention is I don't like it. Why?
You don't like it?
Well, I do. Rules
So you're
are-
asking why not just play normal Commander instead of all these crazy rules?
Technically. My theory of that is kind of like RJ said. If you've played, like, your 4th, your 5th game of normal Commander or whatever, and maybe it's not like a stomping game where, like, everyone actually does have a chance to, like, have their deck do their own cool thing and yada yada. It is kind of nice to kind of shake things up a little bit, because realistically you can't see what your deck can fully do unless it's put to weird, strange things. Like, you'll find interesting avenues or outlooks on things that you didn't see before because you never were put in that situation.
I am known as being kind of negative. I even didn't really want to do this episode, but really the only reason is time, because you need to take the time to learn the rules, and Commander itself is already complex as it is, so adding even more complexities just, in my opinion, kind of makes it a hassle, and Commander's already known for being an hour-long game as it is. I don't know if these rules make it longer.
They might make it slightly longer, but also can make it very, very short. Let's get into the first one, which is going to be Two-Headed Giant. So, Two-Headed Giant didn't necessarily start in Battle Bond, but it was very much popularized because of the Battle Bond set.
Battle Bond was, I'm pretty sure, a draft set, and it was very big for Two-Headed Giant.
Yes.
The pre-release, I think they did a pre-release for it, and that was Two-Headed Giant. Everything was Two-Headed Giant because you had things like the assist mechanic that was printed, where anyone could pay mana into this spell to cause an effect. Or teams. Cards would say, rather than creatures you control, the +1/+1 counter get trample, it was creatures your team controls get that.
Mm-hmm.
And then another thing that a lot of people use is the friend or foe mechanic, where it'll say, for each player, choose friend or foe. Each friend gets a cool, useful benefit. Each foe usually gets a negative benefit. That also was popularized in Battle Bond. For all the actual formats we're going to be mentioning, we're going to make a brief overview of them. I will try to link as many wikis or just rulings underneath of this episode as I possibly can find to give you a full breakdown of 100% all of them. But most of them we just kind of know off the top of our heads because it's a simple format. You just tweak 2 or 3 rules. So Two-Headed Giant itself is a game played with 4 players, 2 on each team. You start off with 60 life because it's technically Commander. If you're playing a normal two-headed,
You share life totals with the person you're playing with.
yes. So with Two-Headed Giant, let's say that Eric and I are on a team with Two-Headed Giant. Sorry,
Don't know
RJ.
how that happened.
I don't know if
I would pick you on my team because you're actually a good fucking player.
No, because that's the thing. Y'all are both. The reason why you guys butt heads all the time is because you're both very good.
Yes.
And so you target each other and you hate on each
Exactly,
other.
that's the way it works. So the way it works is we each go to draw phase at the same time, untap, upkeep, all the phases are at the exact same time, as well as combats. We each can declare our individual attacks by themselves. Everything is shared except for your board state.
Except for your mana.
Your mana does not be shared. Your creatures are not shared.
You control your own permanents, but you attack at the same time and you block at the same time. So technically, if Aaron has no creatures, but I have a creature and someone swings at us, I can block for us.
Yes.
That's pretty cool.
It is very cool. And it makes attacking and blocking a little bit more interesting. It makes killing things a little bit more interesting. And any card that says you draw cards, for instance, Harmonize says you draw 3 cards. Mm-hmm. That only refers to you, the person casting it, not your team.
Things like Rhystic Study work that way too. If I control Rhystic Study and Aaron does not, I would draw a card if my opponents don't pay the 1.
Yes. Now,
in addition to that, I don't get to draw cards if he doesn't pay the 1 because he is my friend and not my opponent.
Exactly. However, effects that say each player applies double to you, to your team, because you were technically 2 players. The cool thing is the fact that you have a friend there that you can actually, you usually show each other your hands. This way you can kind of talk about strategies. You can kind of combine different abilities that you wouldn't otherwise have. Like, for instance, you're like, oh, let's...
Does Ghostly Prison protect both players?
Yeah, Ghostly Prison was one of those weird ones where it does technically protect both of you because they're attacking...
Because you're one entity. You're a two-headed giant.
Yeah, you're a two-headed giant, so you're technically one entity at that point. So Ghostly Prison, Sphere of Safety would technically protect both of you.
That's
However,
awesome.
Yeah, that gets weird. Like, Staxy cards like that gets really kind of interesting and weird. But the point is, it's a really, really cool format. It's complicated at first, but once you start playing it, it's basically like regular Magic. You just have to remember, one person has to take a back seat, one person has to drive. That's just kind of how it works.
Yeah.
Not
Don't play
necessarily.
Necropotence and try to giant. You don't want to hurt your friend, too.
Necropotence is you can't draw cards.
No, but you're paying from your shared
Yeah, you're
life
paying
pool.
for your shared life pool, but it says you can't draw cards. Which means that something like Crick is also the same principle where you will both gain life or you both lose the life, which is very, very important. Fun fact, if you have Exquisite Bond and I have Sanguine Blood, that can technically still go infinite because we're technically on the same team.
That's hilarious.
Also, the biggest issue I notice when playing Two-Headed Giant is people forget that you're doing things at the same time. So you have to end your turn at the same time. You have to declare all your attackers at the same time.
Yep.
Because you can say, oh, I moved to combat, and my person next to me says, I'm not ready yet, and they're still casting things on their main phase.
Yeah.
So that's something to look out for if you ever decide to play Two-Headed Giant.
It's always, like I said, one person's driving, one person's kind of in the back seat or a side seat or whatever. You need to basically... If you're going to choose Two-Headed Giant, typically find someone that you know either your decks are going to be able to synergize together very nicely with each other, or you're going to be able to actually work well with each other. So, for instance, don't put a Taste of Karlov, I want to sacrifice everything, with a Voltron deck. That just doesn't really make sense, because most Edict effects are universal.
Yeah. Well, you've certainly convinced me to try Two-Headed Giant
It's
out.
really, really fun, provided that you have a good teammate, or even if you have like a really crappy teammate, if you can kind of build up your fortress. Like, for instance, you and RJ are probably a really good team because you can be like, I'm going to run combo and stuff in that sense, so I need time to build up. And RJ can be like, okay, I'll be on the ground just blocking up and attacking and stuff in that sense. And by the time you're ready, you can just go with your combo and we can win.
What's very fun is doing Two-Headed Giants where you're both playing slivers.
That seems fun.
And totally balanced.
The guy next to me was mana screwed for the entire game almost, and we still crushed them. Because
Slivers.
Because playing 2 slivers a turn is stupid.
Yeah, don't do that. Moving on, let's talk about Emperor. So let's say that you have a 6-player pod, 6 people or whatever, and everyone wants to play with each other, but let's get real, 6-player games are kind of not great.
I don't like them.
They take a very long time.
It depends on what deck I'm using, if I want to do a 6-player game or not, or if I just generally want to play with everyone, because sometimes it gets really complicated. I was just like, we want to play with you. I'm like, okay, fine, let's play.
What Emperor is, it's 3v3. However, unlike Two-Headed Giant, there's 2 Emperors and then 4 of, I don't know who the other people are called.
They're technically either called Knights or they're called Generals or Lieutenants or something in that sense. So basically, I've got the wiki.
Okay. Well, I know how it goes.
Yeah. So basically, you have, at the start of the game, you have your team on one side of the table, the enemy team on the other side of the table itself. the person inside the middle that is physically seated in the middle. On screen right now, I'm going to put magic cards up on the screen. This way I can kind of have a small generalization of what it looks like. In the middle is going to be that team's emperor. On the left and right side are going to be that team's generals.
So the Emperor has reach 2. The generals have reach 1. Reach 1 means I can hit the guy in front of me and the guy to my right. Reach 2 means that he can hit the diagonals.
Yes.
So he can hit anybody on the table.
Exactly. Which is kind of a D&D term a little bit. Basically what it means is the fact of, let's say that Eric is an actual lieutenant on my side, Archer's a lieutenant on the enemy's team. He can only, his abilities, board wipes, and everything only affects me, the other Emperor, and RJ. It will not affect the other side of the table. So if you're on the left, it won't affect the far right.
So it's like I'm playing a 4-man game even though there's 2 other people.
Yes.
Exactly.
However, it gets a little complicated. The Emperors themselves cannot be attacked. They basically have like a weird hexproof on them and as well as their creatures until one of the lieutenants is killed. So if we actually team up and we're able to actually kill RJ, at that point, you can then Swords of Plowshare your opponent's creature, the opponent Emperor's creatures and stuff like that sense.
So you need to defeat the knights in order to get at the Emperor.
All you need to do is
Yes.
defeat one of the knights. Then the shields are down for the Emperor.
I thought, well,
Well, on one side, yes,
on
but
one
not
side,
the other.
Yeah.
The basic principle with Emperor is that you're choosing someone that legitimately just needs to build up a giant fort and needs time. So either the combo player or the person that runs a bunch of big stompies or whatever. At that point, once one of your shields goes down or you knock down one of theirs, then you can kind of swarm in and just kill everyone, which is kind of cool.
Another interesting thing is all creatures have the deploy creature option, or everyone has the deploy creature option, which is you tap the creature, target teammate gains control of this creature.
So you can basically donate creatures. So for instance, if I've got Mother of Runes on my left side, but you're going to need it for your right fight, I could then tap Mom, at sorcery speed by the way, tap Mom, I can then donate her to you, at which point she'll untap on your untap phase or whatever, then you can actually use Mom like normal. However, if you get taken out, all of your permanents phase out, including your creatures.
It's very complex, but I would love to play a game
I know,
of this.
it's extremely complex, but it's probably one of the funnest formats I've ever played, just because even the math of just deciding, okay, who's going to be Emperor, which side are you going to be on, knowing what your other team is going to be, like, that alone is just crazy shenanigans nonsense. Like, it's great.
I like this one less than Two-Headed Giant, but I'd still give it a shot.
Yeah.
Although the first couple turns might have to go slow, so I understand what the heck is going on.
That's true.
Also, I'm pretty sure everyone takes an individual turn. It's not like Two-Headed Giant where everyone does their turn at once.
Yeah, no. Everyone gets their own individual turn. And it kind of just goes in a normal turn cycle crap.
This might actually make me hate 6-player pods less.
Because it's not a 6-player, it's a 3v3. Because once the
Yeah.
enemy Emperor is dead, the whole team dies. The next format that we actually want to talk about is Star. So Star works only, unfortunately, with 5-player games.
Not necessarily. It works the best with, or only works with odd numbers. So you could do a 7-man star. You could probably do a 9-man star. You have to be able to point in directions.
I just want to mention real quickly, I'm going to put on screen the back of a magic card because it explains Star a lot easier.
It really does, actually.
Than anything.
So star is 5 people sitting in the shape of a star. The person sitting next to you is considered your ally, but I prefer to say just not your enemy, because ultimately only one person in that 5-man pod will win.
Yes.
The people sitting next to you are not your enemy. The people sitting across from you are your enemies. So I will win the game if the 2 people across from me lose. The person to my left, my ally, will win if the 2 people across from him lose.
And so on and so forth.
And so
Yep,
on and so forth.
pretty much.
But the thing is, with your ally to your left, he needs to kill one of your allies to your right. So that's the kick where, especially with Star, it gets more interesting with the politics because you want to help out your teammates, but realizing that by killing the people you're supposed to kill, you're also hurting your teammates' chance of actually winning, which is just great.
Yeah, no, I've seen Star games where someone actively kills one of their allies because their ally's just going too quickly.
Was that in the game that we played?
No, I think this is when I played in Marple.
Okay, because I've actually done that too.
Oh yeah, because they're not actually your allies.
Yeah.
You can attack.
Oh, yeah.
You can still attack them. You can still kill them, because I've definitely done that, because he was either about to win or he was about to win. I'm just like, okay, it's my turn. I'm going to kill you. And he was just like, but we're allies. I'm like, yes, but you're about to win. So I have to kill you now, otherwise I don't have a chance to win myself.
But unfortunately, knocking out one of your
Teammates
means that another person is
now closer
to winning.
Exactly.
Because one of your allies is someone else's enemy.
Yep.
Right?
It's a very fun game that gets turned in circles very, very quickly.
That seems more political than actual Commander.
It actually becomes very political.
It's great because you have to like strategize. Like, ooh, do I let this guy do this? Do I kill my opponents? Because it doesn't matter if the guys next to you do nothing throughout the entire game. The second you kill the two people across from you, you automatically win.
Yes,
Definitely
and it's definitely one of those formats where holding open counter spells is more stressful than anything else, because RJ will drop this giant Eldrazi or something. I'm just like, okay, I really should counter that because he could kill me at any second. But he is also currently on my team, so hopefully he won't backstab me right now. Like, it gets very, 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 very stressful. Important to note
that Kay and Peele sweating gif.
Yeah, like it's important to note the fact that once you do take out one of the 5. The star doesn't move, it doesn't actually change. You can't say, oh, well, now we're shifted, so now that you're attacking my enemy or you're attacking my ally. It doesn't change.
Because by that logic, then you would have to kill everybody else and survive.
Exactly, and
that's
just a normal game of Commander. And that's not the point of this.
I'm gonna say it's interesting how this format depends on 5 people or odd numbers. The last one, Emperor, was 6, and Two-Headed Giant is 4. It makes me wonder if there's a 3-person variant out there somewhere.
Not particularly.
Oh,
I
bet you.
It probably is, but with 3-person, like 3-player Commander games kind of get very Archenemy, which we'll definitely mention before this is over, in the sense of, like, one person either goes off or whatever, the other 2 people basically gang up against them. So it gets kind of wonky, and with there are people actually that don't prefer 3-player games for that exact reasoning.
Yeah, but in my opinion, bad game is better than no game.
That's true.
Sometimes you just gotta grit your teeth and play that 3-man pod.
Or you can keep up with the 5-man politicalness and talk about our next thing, which is going to be
favorite.
My least favorite, actually.
I've never heard of this one. I've heard of the other 3. Never heard of this one.
We're talking about Kingdoms. RJ.
Kingdoms is my favorite playstyle because it's goofy and ridiculous.
It's broken.
So, a game of Kingdoms starts off with everyone being dealt a card. Usually they use basic lands because it's easy to give those values and say something. A plains is the king. A forest is the knight. A mountain is a barbarian. A swamp is a usurper, I believe, and a blue is assassin.
Okay.
It sounds very weird.
Does each class have to kill a certain other one?
So how it goes is you deal out the cards. You don't know what everyone gets. The only one that's known is the king. So the king flips up their card. They are the king. They start off with 10 more life, so they're going to be at 50 while everyone else is at 40. And they win when everyone else loses, except the knight loses. The knight, which is the forest, their goal is to make sure the king wins. So if the king kills everyone except for the knight, and the knight and the king are left, the knight can flip up their card, and they win. The usurper, or let's go with the barbarian first. The barbarian, or mountain, just wants the king dead. When the king dies, the barbarian wins.
The rest are up there,
or
too.
bandit.
Yeah, it's either the bandit or the barbarian. Depending on where you're from, they might say bandit. I kind of prefer barbarian because it makes it sound differently than an assassin.
Yeah.
Then there's the assassin, which is the swamp. The assassin wants to be the last person standing. It's identical to the king. However, it is different because they're not the king. They're secret. They want to kill the king and be the last one standing. They're the swamp or the usurper. Actually, the usurper's island. Shit.
The colors,
It doesn't matter.
It doesn't matter.
Yeah.
You can interchange any of the lands for any of them. These are just ways to differentiate.
Or you can actually use playing cards like one person actually did with our playgroup, which is hilarious.
That sounds cool. So the assassin, they want to be the last one standing. They need to kill everyone and just be on their own, and they win. The usurper. So normally in one of these games, you would do it with 5 or more people. You wouldn't have an assassin if you had more than 5. If you had less than 6. Because you want to have like 2 barbarians, a knight, a usurper, an assassin, and the king.
Okay.
Which sounds weird, and it's very complex.
The cool thing about having 2 barbarians is the fact that it's like a guaranteed, well, almost guaranteed, hey, you have an ally in this entire thing.
The usurper, their goal is to become the king. If the usurper deals the killing blow to the king, they become the king.
Do they gain the 10 life?
No, they don't gain any life.
But the knight, they do gain the knight's protection now, because the knight now is sworn to help the king. So the knight basically, if you kill the king as a usurper, you then become the king, which means that knight is now your friend.
Also, the king becomes the usurper. Rather than dying, they go to 1 life and now have the usurper card. And they now want to become the king again.
It's kind of like a weird extra turn type bullshit.
Yeah.
But they're also at 1 life, so it's like,
Yeah, anybody can kill them.
Yeah, you like...
And also, they're known as the usurper, so if the knight's still alive, the knight will kill them.
Wait, what happens if the usurper kills the king?
The king doesn't die, the king goes to 1 life and becomes the usurper.
And the usurper becomes the king.
They trade roles.
Yeah, they trade roles, and the knight actually then avidly goes after the new usurper because A, he's at 1 life, and B, because he wants to protect his king.
Yeah, because as long as a king wins, the knight wins.
Okay.
Now, as I said, no one knows what their roles are except the king, or no one knows who everyone else is except for the king.
The king's card is flipped face up, everyone else's is face down, and then the politics get
wonky.
I'm guessing you're not allowed to reveal which role you are.
You're allowed to tell people if you want, but the thing is,
no one has to believe you.
Yeah, if I tell you, oh, I'm the knight, I'm supposed to protect my king, there's a good chance that I might be lying. I could be telling the truth.
My old playgroup, the entire group, everyone wants to pretend to be the knight because that's how you get on the king's good side. The king knows that the knight will help them win, so they want to help the knight. So everyone will pretend to like the king. And at my playgroup, they would go, "My king," to whoever was the king, and try to do anything the king wants. Because they want the king to win, because they're the knight. Barbarian, as soon as they kill the king, if one of them kills the king, barbarians win.
Yeah.
Oh. So if there's multiple barbarians, all of them win?
Yes.
Yes. All the barbarians win. They're all in the same groups, or all in the same crew, technically.
However, the barbarians themselves don't know who else is another barbarian. So, for instance, I could be a barbarian. I'm just like, I'll attack the king or whatever. RJ could also be a barbarian. He might think, okay, maybe you're a barbarian, or maybe you're the assassin, maybe you're the usurper. Like, I don't actually know.
Right. Yeah, no, I was playing a game with my old buddy Chris Patko. Yo, Chris. He was the guy who came up with the "my king" thing. Me and him were both barbarians in this game of Kingdoms. And I was really going off with all my stuff, and he just kept tampering with what I was doing. So I killed him first. He was my only ally in the entire game.
And you killed him by accident.
And I killed him first.
Yeah, that seems like you want to watch what other people are doing, because if you want the king dead and someone else does too, you might be on the same team.
But here's the thing. You don't know that. Like, if someone's popping off, whatever, trying to basically get up a decently sized, board state to kill the king or whatever, and maybe kill the knight, you don't really know who is helping you. Like, I could just I could Swords of Plowshare. Let's say that we're both barbarians. I'll Swords of Plowshare your Ulamog, thinking, and I could be a barbarian too, you're a barbarian. I'll Swords of Plowshare your Ulamog, thinking, okay, well, maybe he's the knight trying to protect his king. You're like, I was going to use that against the king. I can't fully trust that you were going to use that against your king. I don't know. Maybe you were. Maybe you weren't.
I played a game where the Infect player was the king, and I lied to the king the entire time. That was the same game where I killed my only other barbarian first. I convinced the king that I was going to help him till the very end, where I swung out and killed him in one turn.
That's funny. Also, honestly, a barbarian killing another barbarian seems kind of on theme, really.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Because technically the barbarian doesn't want the usurper to kill the king, because then they become the king, and the assassin wouldn't actually kill the king first.
Yeah.
Because the assassin wants to be the last man standing, so they want to do a one-on-one with the king. So they would be killing everybody else first, which also would make them look like the knight.
Now, let's talk about the reason why I'm not a fan of this game. So, I'm not a fan because everyone goes and basically protects the king. No one ever actually swings directly at the king or uses anything against the king directly. Everyone kind of just chips away at everyone else slowly, and the king kind of just rises to this humongous power. We played this with Avery, who we call Dino Boy, who's using Gashath and dinosaurs, and he was the king because that's just how the cards got dealt. Let me tell you something. Leaving dinosaurs alone for like several turns, but while you're killing each other, that's not smart. That's super not smart. It blew up in all of our faces.
Except for the knight, because the knight still won when the king won.
Yes. Like, it's...
If the knight's knocked out and the king wins, does that still count as a victory for the
knight.
Yeah,
defeated
it still
player?
counts as a victory for the knight.
That's hilarious.
Yeah.
It's great. My favorite thing is, which happened the first time I played the game, or first time I played Kingdoms, is just because I read you all these roles doesn't mean you need to use all of them.
Yeah.
The first game I ever played Kingdoms, there was the king, there was the assassin, and there were 4 knights. No one knew who was a knight, so we kept killing each other in the name of the king. And then we killed the usurper first, mind you. So that's just 4 people who technically already won, killing each other.
And the cool thing is, once you die, you don't have to reveal who you were.
It pisses people off if you do,
Yeah, because it ruins the game a little bit.
because you're narrowing it down.
Yeah.
Because like if I die and I'm the knight, then the king automatically knows none of these people are my friend.
Yeah.
So the king knows to just start killing people.
Off with their heads.
Yep,
Basically.
pretty much.
Okay. So, in contrast to Aaron, I think I like this format a lot.
You haven't played it.
I think I even like it better than Emperor.
You haven't played Kingdoms. And once you played a few, like...
Well, here's the thing, too, is the way that we normally play Kingdoms, or the way that I played Kingdoms, is everyone pretends to be the knight. You don't have to do that. Both barbarians, because there's 2 barbarians, they have a technical advantage because they both know we want to kill the king. So if they both just all go out and try and kill the king, then all of a sudden the usurper and the assassin can start trying to kill the king, and then they just know who the knight is.
Yeah.
We could narrow it down that way too.
Because swinging out the king doesn't necessarily mean the entire table's going to turn against you.
Yeah.
Because
No
the
one
other
knows.
barbarian would be like, wait, he's trying to take out the king. I'm trying to take out the king.
Just-
and then the assassin will be like, all right, I'll wait till these 2 idiots get him low enough, then I'll go for the killing blow.
Well, the
That's-
assassin wants to kill everyone else first, and then the
Oh,
king.
that's right.
Yeah.
So the assassin would act as a knight. So then you don't know who the actual knight is because you're trying. They could be the assassin.
That's right.
The few games I've actually... Because I played like this like 3 or 4 times. I know that one of the games I was actively the knight, and I was protecting the king, and then everyone was like, oh, he must be the knight. So I just swung all out at the king and got him down to like 20. They're like, oh, it clearly he's not the knight. I'm like, yeah, exactly. Like, you know... So it's one of those things where deflecting attention is also really cool because you can just... Once someone figures out or they think they know, you can just change it on an instant just by attacking the king or something. They're like, oh, well, he's been protecting him this whole time. I'm like, no, I'm just being a jerk. Like, you don't know.
Yeah, no, the funny part with Kingdoms is when you do things, if you have like a really tyrannical person playing king, you can just ask them to do things. Like, can I do this, king? And the king can just be like, no. Like the one game I had, I was playing Sahili, and I had big scary Eldrazi in the graveyard, or
I
got
remember that.
Mycosynth Lattice in the graveyard. And I'm like, my king, can I get back my Mycosynth Lattice? And the king said, no.
So he didn't.
So I
He
didn't.
cast something else.
I did something else because the king said no, and I had to look good for the king.
He wasn't even the knight.
I was a barbarian.
You could have betrayed him and be like, Mycosynth Lattice return!
Well, yeah, but
Fuck
then
you.
at that point, then you don't get the king's favor. At that point, like, you know, the king knows, okay, he's probably not the knight because
Yeah.
you disobeyed me. Like,
It
there's...
was me and someone else, and I took that person's turn with Emrakul and basically had them kill themselves.
Nice.
And then I killed the king with a swing out.
Yeah. It's the kingdom is definitely more interesting. It's definitely more sparks flying or nothing. I just don't care for the fact that sometimes people leave the king alone too long. Sometimes they don't.
Sometimes you want the king to be alive if you're the
Exactly.
assassin or the knight.
Yeah. The moving on to the actual next one, which is definitely my favorite, it's going to be Planechase. So a lot
classic.
of it is basically a classic at this point. This is one that Wizards of the Coast basically kind of homebrewed. potentially.
It's not a homebrew. It's an
It's
actual
from the
thing
company.
they made.
It's
It's official content, my dude.
It's
well, here's the
official
thing.
content.
If Wizards of the Coast made a homebrew format, this is what that would be.
Exactly.
Yeah, that's a good description of any.
So the way that Planechase works is that there's actually these cards called planar cards themselves. The basic principle of Planechase is the fact of you are Planeswalkers.
Which technically in Magic, that's true anyway.
Yes.
If you've ever played Yu-Gi-Oh! And played field cards, this concept will be familiar to you.
A little bit. So you're Planeswalkers, and you're actually physically transitioning to different planes. And on each plane has a bunch of different effects. One thing I do want to mention right from the gate is that you can either buy the Planechase set, which is like $100 and some odd dollars.
$140 for the Planechase Anthology, which I believe comes with everything.
Yeah, it comes with all the cards, the planar die, which is basically
It's a D6
It's-
with two sides.
D6 with two sides. One of the sides is weird like circle thing, which we call chaos, and the other side has the Planeswalker logo or the Wizards of the Coast logo. What I recommend is not doing that and just buying the actual app. So I'm pretty sure it's on all devices, but I know it's 100% on Apple because I own it.
If it's on iOS, it's on everything else because Apple takes things slower than iOS does. Or Apple takes things slower than Android does.
It's called MTG Planechase. We literally just download it, and inside of it, once you actually open it, are all of the actual Planechase cards themselves, physically inside the app itself. It also technically has its own individual planar die, which you can officially roll on screen.
Or just use a D6 and only count 1 and 6.
That's basically what I recommend as well. I personally like the D6s because I feel like the planar die might be weighted slightly weirdly. I don't know. We
knows?
tested something weird in Delaware. It's fine. The point is, when you roll let's say if you're rolling a d6, when you roll a 1, that's basically just the Planechase ability. So you basically move from one plane to the next. When you roll a chaos, the other effect happens. So let's just take a simple plane. Is this a simple plane? Sure, let's take a simple plane. Let's say the first plane you go to is Sky Bear. Let's
right.
go ahead and have RJ read this.
Skybreen, playing from Kaldheim, and it says players play with the top cards of their library revealed. Spells that share a card type with the top card of a library can't be cast. So if there's a creature on top of your library, you can't cast creatures.
No one can.
And
That's
the
funny.
chaos says whenever you roll chaos, target player loses life equal to the number of cards in his or her hand.
So that's one potential plane.
So another ruling with Planechase is every turn you can roll the Planechase die to try and get off that plane, or to get the chaos if you really want that.
Sometimes you really do.
Every other time you do it, every other time you want to roll the die in a turn, you have to pay 1 mana or 1 cumulative mana. So if I want to roll it twice in a turn, I'll have to pay 3 mana in total.
Yes. So it's basically you get a free roll every single turn, and then let's say you mess it up or you don't get anything, you can then pay a single mana of any color, roll it a second time, and then you want to roll it, you mess up again, pay 2 mana, roll it a third time. And then every single time afterwards, it basically just keeps
It gets
going.
plus
It gets
1
bigger, bigger, bigger.
cumulative.
Bigger. It's kind of nice because sometimes we'll just have open mana, and we're just like, cool, let's just, roll the chaos die. You never know.
Or say you're playing an all-creature deck like Nikya, and you're on Kaldheim, and you can't cast anything, just dump all your mana into getting out of that plane.
Basically. But if you do Planechase, then you can always Planechase to something else, like...
Stronghold Furnace. I know you love this card, Aaron.
I do.
If a source would deal damage to a creature or player, it deals double that damage to that creature or player instead. And that's a plane on Wrath, which I'm pretty sure is part of Phyrexia. Part of the Phyrexian,
Yeah,
thing. Because they're on more than one plane.
I think, because I think Koth is from Wrath.
Yeah. And whenever you roll Chaos, Stronghold Furnace deals 1 damage to target creature or player.
Yeah.
That's such a cheesy Chaos roll, though.
It is such a cheesy chaos roll, but it's also...
Because there's some ridiculous ones, too.
One thing that a lot of people actually like is another plane, which I feel like Eric might actually like. It's Muris. It's playing Zendikar. Whenever a non-token creature enters a battlefield, its controller may search his or her library for a basic land, put it onto the battlefield, tap, and then shuffle your library. So it's Karametra's ability for everyone.
That's dope. What's the chaos ability?
The chaos is whenever you roll chaos, target land becomes a 4/4 creature that's still a land. This does not end at the end of turn.
It just animates one of your lands.
It just
Great.
animates one of your lands.
Does it say yours, or does it say a land?
Target land becomes a 4/4 creature, so it does not have to be
So
yours.
I turn your land into a creature and then kill it.
Yes.
I love how Eric's eyes went wide when he said that. He's like, yes, do it. I propose that in the future, if you ever do want to play Planechase and you want to really ramp it up, trade out that Planechase die for a quarter.
Which is something that he's been talking about for ages.
Ever. Since the last time we played Planechase, I'm like, yo, let's do it with a quarter.
Because
you either move to a
50-50 chance.
Right, it's either chaos or move.
Yeah, I don't recommend that just because
chaos or order.
it could actually speed up the game a lot, or it could just make everyone just straight die. One thing I do want to mention is probably the funnest and best plane on the entire Planechase is Goat Meadow. It's on the plane of Laurelwind, and it says whenever a land enters the battlefield, that land's controller puts a three 0/1 white goat creature tokens onto the battlefield. And then whenever you roll chaos, put a 0/1 goat creature token onto the battlefield. So you drop a land, you get some goats. You roll chaos, you get a goat. It's goat plane.
Lots of goats.
Everyone loves goat plane.
I don't.
Well, here's the thing.
Shut up, Eric.
The thing is about the planes themselves is sometimes you want to stay forever like goat plane because it doesn't hurt you. It doesn't hurt your opponents.
There's another
do
plane that
anything.
gives everything trample, so if you're a big creature deck, ta-da.
Yeah. Every time you roll the planar dice, you're always taking a chance of, am I going to get out this plane and go to somewhere worse? There's plenty of planes that actually has, I think it's like something mountain where each turn you put a pressure counter on it, and then once you leave the plane, it explodes and deals damage equal to the number of pressure counters to each creature. In each player or whatever. If
I'm
you
pretty
roll-
sure that one is actually, it deals that much damage to one person.
No, it's everyone.
Is everyone?
Yes, because when you roll chaos, you have protection. You and all permanents you have protection from this plane until you leave.
Okay.
So yeah, it's basically everyone. The thing is also too, some people have a different theory. Some people put, whenever they plane chase, they'll put another one to the bottom.
I like that one because technically then you would get to a point, theoretically, that you would get to the end of the planar deck.
Yeah, basically. It's a weird thing. There are also, I think they're called spectacles or something like that, where it's a one-time effect. When you roll to it, something happens, and then you then immediately roll out of it. Sometimes it's like, you roll off of it, you go to the spectacle thing, destroy all creatures.
Yeah.
Roll to the next plane. Simple, easy. It's not fair. It's not balanced. It's just, hey, destroy all creatures.
Yeah.
You're like, what the fuck? But
Does the game start with you on a plane, or do you have to roll into one?
You start on a plane.
Sometimes you start on a plane. I know some people tend not to want to start on a plane. I don't know why, but sometimes you just do.
Shuffle up. Let the chaos begin.
Basically.
Start at that furnace plane.
Don't start the first plane. We always, typically people choose, like, if they're going to start off with one, they'll shuffle it up. And
In
then
like
choose,
Teleria or something.
Yeah, like choose one that's not too broken, but not going to kill you immediately. Because
No,
it is
do
still-
random. Shuffle and then just flip up, and whatever happens, happens.
Basically. It's cool. I highly recommend playing it, and you kind of have no excuse now because if you own a smartphone, which you probably do, just download the app. It's right there.
Singling out all of our audience who listens to an internet podcast but doesn't have a smartphone.
Who doesn't have a smartphone?
I'm pretty sure that's some sort of
Percentile.
ism.
Anyway,
That's classism.
It is.
moving on to the next one, which is going to be one of our last ones for the most part. Just talk about Monarch. So
Monarch is just a mechanic in Magic. It's not actually its own playstyle, but people like to do some interesting stuff with it.
yeah, like for instance, just starting off with Monarch inside the game. It's something that we kind of did with my old play group in Delaware, where we rolled to see who went first. Cool, and then we rolled to see who became the Monarch first. And at that point, we just started the game with the Monarch. What the Monarch basically states is, as long as you're actually the Monarch yourself, at your end step before your discard, you draw a card. Then go to discard and everything in that sense. If you are dealt combat damage, the person that dealt combat damage to you then becomes the Monarch. Fun fact about Monarch, once it's in the game, it never officially leaves the game until the game itself is over. So, for instance, if I'm the Monarch and then Eric kills me with a creature, he'll then become the Monarch, even though I'm technically dead. If RJ then kills Eric with, a Welcome Ballista combo, but doesn't kill everyone else for some reason, at that point, that's not technically combat damage, so it will go to Eric's immediate left. They then become the Monarch, not the person that killed him, because it wasn't combat damage itself.
Regular Monarch can disappear, though, right?
No.
Really?
Those are the rules from regular Monarch as well as this game version of Monarch.
Well,
Oh,
okay.
okay.
Hear me out. Karn Liberated.
Yeah, you and this is the second episode in a row you've mentioned freaking Karn. The point is, Monarch's really, really fantastic. I recommend putting it into, because it's kind of hard. The Monarch cards themselves, outside of like Queen Marchesa or whatever, who just comes in, I become the Monarch. The Monarch cards themselves are kind of bad. I mean,
occasionally there might be one that's
The
useful.
Behemoth.
Well, let's think. There's the good ones are the Behemoth, the Palace Jailer, and then there's also this Black Assassin chick.
Well, Palace Jailer is only good if you can abuse it.
No,
I played Custody Lich in one of my decks.
Yeah, like it's the Monarch themselves are kind of just iffy, but it's always nice to have just the Monarch because it, if nothing else, it forces people to attack. It forces people to, like, you know, not just say pass when they have a board save full of creatures. It's like, hey, swing over with that one flyer. Like, who cares? He'll take the 1 damage. You'll become the Monarch. You draw more cards. And don't underestimate drawing extra cards. Even if it's like 3 extra cards, that's 3 more than your opponent's got. So it's great.
I've heard of people using Monarch to give it to the person who goes last, since they're typically at the most disadvantage of the table.
Some people will do that as well when they're starting with Monarch inside the game itself. But when it comes to Monarch, you can technically choose whoever wants. I don't recommend the first person to have Monarch. So the person that's going first gets Monarch.
Duh.
Yeah.
I mean, that's it. People do it. I don't
person
recommend it,
going
but people do it.
last,
Person going last, that's always cool. Or just roll a random die. And hey, that's the Monarch.
Yeah,
Roll
the
for
idea
first,
is,
roll for Monarch.
Even if the
Basically.
first person gets a creature out and hits the 4th player and gains Monarchy, the 4th player was still able to draw like a card or 2
Exactly.
extra.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The only downside is, like I said, starting with Monarch turn 0 is kind of iffy because, you know, you draw for turn and then you're also going to maybe play something, then you draw for Monarch, you still might have the discard. But, you know, once you get past that, you're fine.
And if you have some sort of haste creature, you can snatch it from the player with Monarch before they even have lands down.
But yeah, Monarch's great. I love it to death. There is also a side, another technical quote-unquote format, Archenemy. Archenemy technically is its own format, and it has its own set of rules. In Archenemy Commander version, which is very much a homebrew, you're basically just choosing one person, or they recommend themselves usually, saying, hey, 4-player game, I'm going to be the Archenemy this game. All 3 of you just try to see how much you can deal damage to me and kill me.
Usually the archenemy starts with more life, whatever you feel like. Like if everyone else starts at 30, you'll start at 40 or 50. And in official archenemy, there's an archenemy deck where at the beginning of each of the archenemy's turns, they flip up the card and get an effect.
Yeah. But in this, because it's Commander, you can always say, okay, well, you'll run like, you know, I don't know, the counterspell deck, or you'll run like, you know, a Planeswalker deck, or you'll run like a CDH deck or something like that, where you can kind of answer a bunch of different things. Or like, hey, you're running stacks. Like, you know, we can actually probably play this with Rob or something, like just have him like in his Escher deck, but he needs time to build up. Archenemy is interesting.
It's not even a real thing. I mean, if you do something that makes the table mad, like play a Winter Orb, you kind of become the archenemy.
Yeah.
Well, actually, in archenemy, it's like 2-headed giant, but instead of 2v2, it's 3v1.
Yeah.
So the 3 people share creatures, share attack and draw and casting time, and main phases and stuff. So you can't actually hit the person sitting next to you, because I think you guys share a life total too.
Yeah,
no, you don't.
You don't share life total, but once one of you is down, obviously, like, you know, you're on a team basically. It's legit a 3v1 scenario. I like Archenemy a little bit just because it puts your deck to the absolute limit and seeing what it can actually do. Like, you know, everyone thinks that they're like Gitrog, for instance, you're like, oh, well, this is like the best deck in the world, or something crazy like that, or whatever. Or you're like, oh, this is very, very strong.
I never said it was the best deck in the world.
No, but it's probably your strongest deck you currently own.
Oh, yeah, it's CEDH.
Exactly.
They
so
tend to do that.
We should probably do an Archenemy one of these times just to see just how strong it is. It could be fun. You never know. But one thing else that also exists is probably, you know, the thing that we always go ahead and do. And I'm slowly just trolling RJ a little bit.
I think it's time for last call.
Last call.
You don't have to go home, but you can't stay here. All right.
Here's the thing: did I sound too overeager to end the podcast? Because that wasn't the idea. I was just hoping to say last
It's fine.
call.
All right, so we want to thank our new subscribers, over 100 at this point. That's just great. You guys are great. Your names are kind of floating up on screen right now. We also want to thank our
sponsor?
No, not the sponsor. The advisors. There we go. I also want to thank our advisors, Chris, Pope, Senpai and Makati, because you've actually been helping out a lot recently. Thank you. We also, since we mentioned Chris, let's mention and plug his stream a little bit. If you go over to Twitch, CM_3_, you'll see him. He was in our second to last episode, or one of those.
He was in the last episode we posted. He's a great guy. I play Dead by Daylight with him if you want to catch me doing something other than Magic. He also plays things like Legends of Runeterra, Magic Arena, Apex Legends. He's going to be doing some League soon.
He did also mention that he's going to be streaming all of Mass Effect, so Mass Effect 1, 2, and 3.
Oh, yeah. He's starting in April, I think.
But
he's going to be doing
about Andromeda?
a live stream of all the 3 Mass Effect games.
Let me say something right now. We don't talk about Andromeda, okay? We don't talk about Andromeda in this house.
Don't forget to use our TC.
Technically, we don't really talk about Mass Effect 3 either, because apparently that was a big disappointment. Anyway.
It's fine. We do,
Each
however...
ending gets the different color.
We
It
do.
does.
We do.
Blue, red, or
Green.
I'm trying to do the last call.
Roy G.
We do,
Biv.
however, want to mention... We're going to mention our Discord as well as our Twitter. Twitter is at Planeswalkers
P1.
P1. What, is that just Planeswalkers Pub, or is it just Planeswalkers...
It's Planeswalkers P1. You're the one who made the Twitter, Aaron.
He made the Twitter.
You're the one who made the Twitter, Eric.
Planeswalkers P1, and as well as our Discord, links of which are both inside the description box below. In the Discord are 2 things. Number one, will gain access to our Chaser episodes, which are basically just like little 10-minute-ish segments of us talking about stuff and jank and whatever. Last week we talked about the Big Bang Theory. Think about our thoughts on that. This week we're going to be talking about... And after that, we want to mention our friends over at tcgplayer.com. In the description box below with everything else is our affiliate link you over to TCG Player. You're going to be buying cards anyways, trying to help out the channel at the same time. Another thing, comments down below if we missed any of the actual different variants, or if we maybe screwed up on 1 or 2 of the rules. Like I mentioned before, in the description is going to be the links to a bunch of the different things I can find. But if you know of a variant that people are playing that we just missed or skipped, let us know down in the comments.
See ya.